When winter descended on the Viking world, it wasn't just cold, it was survival. Temperatures plunged far below freezing, the sun vanished for months, and storms swept across fjords like hammers of the gods. Yet these seafaring warriors, farmers and explorers endured, without electricity, heaters, or even glass windows. This is the story of how Vikings survived the brutal Nordic winter, relying only on skill, faith, and fire. Before the first snow fell, every settlement came alive with urgency. Men harvested grain and fish, while women dried meat and wove thick wool garments. They sealed longhouse roofs with straw and moss, chopped endless firewood, and traded for furs that could withstand blizzards. Smokehouses filled the air with the scent of preserved meat. Nothing was wasted: fish, grain, honey, even pine needles for tea. Winter wasn't an event. It was a test you began preparing for in autumn. Once the world outside froze solid, life retreated indoors. The longhouse became the heart of Viking survival, part home, part fortress. At its center, a single hearth burned day and night. Around it, families cooked stews, dried boots, and slept wrapped in layers of fur. Stories and sagas filled the air as blizzards howled outside. Smoke drifted through roof vents, leaving everything smelling of ash and pine. In that warmth, children played with wooden toys, warriors sharpened their axes, and the long, dark nights felt just a little shorter. But the Vikings didn't rely on storage alone. When supplies ran low, men ventured into snow-covered forests to hunt elk and hare. Their breath froze on their beards as they tracked animals through the ice. Others drilled holes into frozen lakes to catch fish beneath the surface. Every success meant one more day alive. Every failure, one step closer to hunger. They cooked game over open fires, smoked the meat to last weeks, and used every bone and sinew. In a world of endless white, food was survival, and survival was victory. To battle the cold, Vikings layered wool, leather, and fur with remarkable precision. They spun yarn, tanned hides, and crafted fur-lined hoods stitched with bone needles. Animal fat was rubbed on faces to prevent frostbite, and even hair was braided for warmth. Every stitch, every pelt, every tool was handmade. They forged metal indoors, carved wooden skis and snowshoes, and prepared everything needed to move across frozen ground. Their clothing wasn't just fashion, it was armor against nature. Outside, their homes stood as testaments to human endurance. The longhouse walls were thick logs packed with clay and moss for insulation. Snow was piled deliberately around the base to block wind. Inside, hides covered the roof, curtains guarded doorways, and every crack was sealed against the chill. Animals often shared the same shelter, their body heat warming the space. At dawn, smoke rose through icy air, curling into grey skies. The Viking village survived not because of luck, but because of design. Vikings knew that surviving the cold meant surviving together. They cared for livestock as carefully as family, feeding goats, milking cows, protecting horses with blankets. Even ravens were fed, seen as messengers of Odin. Indoors, life continued, trading furs, carving runes, teaching children. When fear of the endless night crept in, they turned to the gods. At midwinter, they celebrated Yule, lighting fires, sharing mead, and thanking Thor and Freya for endurance. Their faith gave them warmth that no hearth ever could. But even faith couldn't stop the worst weeks, when supplies thinned and the sun refused to rise. This was the hunger moon, when families shared the last loaf of bread and melted snow for water. Hands cracked from frostbite, and tools froze solid. Smoke rose weakly from houses buried under snowdrifts. Yet still, they worked, repairing, hoping, waiting for the first hint of spring. Each dawn grew slightly brighter and each day survived felt like defiance against death itself. When the storms finally broke, the silence that followed was almost sacred. Smoke curled lazily from buried rooftops, and the first rays of sunlight painted the ice in gold. The Vikings emerged from their longhouses like ghosts returning to life, faces pale, beards frozen, eyes blinking against the brightness they had nearly forgotten. Every footprint in the snow told a story of endurance. The walls that had groaned through the blizzards now steamed under the touch of warmth. Children laughed again, chasing each other through the melting frost. For months, they had eaten in silence, prayed in whispers, and dreamed of spring. Now, those dreams stepped into daylight. The rivers cracked open first, deep echoes rolling through the valleys like thunder from beneath the world. Water shimmered, alive again, carrying away the scars of winter. Farmers returned to their fields, breaking the frozen soil with numb hands. They planted the first seeds, not just of crops, but of hope. Each sprout that pierced the ground was a small rebellion against death. The herds stumbled out from the shelters, blinking at the sun, their breaths soft clouds in the morning air. Ravens circled above, calling over the thawing earth, symbols of memory, of life's cycle never ending. Then came the great fire. A single spark caught the dry wood at the heart of the village, and flames reached toward the heavens. Around it, every man, woman, and child gathered, not as warriors or farmers, but as survivors. They raised their mugs of mead to the gods, to ancestors, to each other. For in the north, survival was never an individual triumph. It was a collective heartbeat that refused to fade. They sang old songs of Thor's hammer and Freya's blessing, songs of courage and love that outlasted every storm. Their voices carried through the fjord valleys, rising into the still cold air, a sound both human and eternal. As the flames dimmed and stars returned to the northern sky, the Vikings looked upward, knowing another winter would come. They would once again cut wood, mend roofs, hunt through snow, and light the fires that kept them alive. But tonight, there was peace. Not because the cold had ended, but because they had proven stronger than it. In their hearts burned something the ice could never freeze: resilience, unity, and faith. The Viking spirit wasn't about conquest or war. It was about endurance, the ability to stand against nature itself and remain unbroken. And as dawn's pale light swept across the fjord one final time, it revealed the truth that every Viking already knew: that warmth is not found in the fire, but in the people who share it.